Good evening. Birmingham will bid to host the Commonwealth Games in 2026. A full plan isn't yet in place, but it's been suggested that many of the venues needed to host the Games are already in place.
Well, the city will face tough competition from elsewhere in the UK and abroad, but success has been pinned on getting everyone here to get behind the idea.
Well, later on, we'll be speaking to the man charged with putting that bid together, Councillor Ian Wood. But first, our reporter Michael Sept joins us from Alexander's Stadium. And Michael, presumably the stadium there forms a key part of the bid for 2026.
Well, the truth is, Samina, at the moment, we don't really know. We're still in the very early stages of this bid. We don't know in any detail how much they think it's going to cost, and we don't know if they want to build any new stadia if they're successful. What we do know is that the local authority want the Commonwealth Games to come here to Birmingham in 2026, and they want people here to back the bid. Sport is at the heart of the second city. From top-flight football and high-class performance centres to amateur and youth sport that induce no less passion. And it's that passion that those behind Birmingham's bid hope will win the support of people here. But it can't all be heart. There have to be arguments of the head as well.
It's not just about a sporting event. If this is really going to generate the value that we believe it can for the Greater Birmingham area, it's got to continue the great economic renaissance that we're seeing now. If we can all come together, boy, have we got a powerful proposition.
One of the strengths of Birmingham's bid will be that most of the infrastructure would appear to already be in place. There aren't many cities with as many world-class venues already operating, but the logistics are far from set in stone. Over the next 6 months, a feasibility study will be carried out to see where the different sports can be held, what new venues need to be built, and exactly how much it will cost. The City Council's early estimates are that the cost to them would be around £100 million. Catherine Merry is an Olympic medalist and now an athletics commentator. The prospect of the Commonwealth Games in her home city is an exciting one.
The fact that Birmingham has so much infrastructure already in place is a massive plus. You're looking at multi-sport championships. The Commonwealth Games is so many sports, and I think we're only having to potentially look at building 2 new venues in the Black Country, the velodrome and the swimming pool. That's an absolutely outstanding platform to start from, and therefore a massive plus for Birmingham and the region, that we're not going to have to spend loads and loads of money to put the infrastructure in place to hold the Commonwealth Games, because it's already here.
It all sounds very exciting, but this isn't Birmingham's first bid for a major multi-sport games.
Bring the games to Birmingham in 1992. That's the best thing that anybody can do.
The song was questionable, but the message was clear. In 1992, Birmingham wanted the Olympics. It didn't win. Instead, the Games went to Barcelona.
Show the world what Birmingham can do.
Barcelona, España.
We're only really at the early stages of this bid. It's another year until the UK's official city is chosen, and then it's September 2019 when the final host city is announced. It could be a tough sell to people in Birmingham this time around. The City Council need to save £250 million over the next 4 years. Some may question whether a sporting event is the best use of public money. The Commonwealth Games in 2014 were held in Glasgow, and when you start to look at some of the numbers involved in those games, you start to see why it might be an attractive proposition for Birmingham to get involved. In all, it cost the public purse £370 million to put on those games in Glasgow, but as a result of winning the bid, there was more than £1 billion invested in transport and infrastructure. They were left with 700 affordable homes in the city from the athletes' village, and they created more than 2,000 jobs. In all, it's estimated that the Commonwealth Games were worth more than £750 million to the local economy in Glasgow. And since then, in the 2 years, they say they've seen more events that they wouldn't have hosted before they got the Games, worth another £100 million to the Glasgow economy. As well as future economic incentives, there's also a potential physical legacy. Both Glasgow and Manchester were left with world-class facilities, with Manchester in particular investing heavily in new venues. The city is now home to many of our most successful Olympic sports, including cycling and swimming. Neil Snowball is now Chief Executive of Warwickshire County Cricket Club, but has previously organised the Rugby World Cup and all sporting operations at London 2012. He thinks Birmingham is ready.
I think it's fantastic news. I think it's really great for Birmingham, but also the whole of the West Midlands. As you said, there's been some speculation for a while. I've certainly been encouraging the people that will ultimately make the decision to put the hat in the ring, just because I've seen what it can do for other cities around the world, and Birmingham is a fantastic sporting city already, and I just think this would be great news for the city and for the West Midlands.
With all your experience of organising and being involved in these big multi-sport competitions, what do you think are the biggest challenges Birmingham might face over the next couple of years?
I think first of all there's always a little bit of an anti-feeling and a bit of lethargy, which is normal. Some people just don't like the idea of spending and investing a lot of money into sport, and that's normal, and that happens everywhere. This is a really big sporting city, but you know, it's maybe in terms of attracting major events, it's not quite where it used to be. And again, this is where everybody working together can really put it back on the map again.
Birmingham really pulled out all the stops for the Olympics in 1992, but not even the writers at Spitting Image were convinced.
And it's not only Barcelona who's got a bull ring. We've got one that's bigger and twice as dangerous.
After much consideration, we immediately award the next Olympic Games to Barcelona.
Do you think we should have mentioned the Glass Museum?
Maybe not even the Glass Museum would have been enough then. The Barcelona bid was just too strong.
Walk on.
This time, the first major competitor will be Liverpool. They've already announced that they're putting together a bid, but only one UK city can go through to the final. If Birmingham is chosen, they will almost certainly face stiff competition from Edmonton in Canada, who withdrew from the final of the contest for the 2022 Games to concentrate on 2026. Auckland in New Zealand is also considering a bid, as is the capital of Papua New Guinea, Port Moresby. Last year they hosted a successful Pacific Games. If the Games do come here to Birmingham, it will put the city in the world spotlight in a way perhaps not seen since 1988, when Bill Clinton and other world leaders came here for the G8 summit. 2026 is also the year when the Birmingham leg of HS2 is supposed to open, including the £1 billion redevelopment of Curzon Street Station and the surrounding areas. What better way to showcase a new Birmingham than in front of a global television audience of 1.5 billion people? That journey starts now.
Well, let's go back to Michael now. Michael, the money, the cost side of this process is something you concentrated on quite a lot in that report there. I guess the question is whether Birmingham can or can't afford to even begin it. What do you think?
Well, that is the big question, and it's one of the big questions that this feasibility study that they'll carry out over the next 6 months will answer. What is clear, though, is that if Birmingham is successful, the money for the Games won't come from just one pot. So it'll have to come from lots of different sources. Yes, Birmingham City Council, there'll almost certainly have to be central government investment from the private sector, and of course there's also money from the likes of ticketing and merchandising and things like that. And we've talked about the venues and the stadia that there already is in Birmingham. That could bring the cost down, but they won't want to be seen to try and do these games on the cheap. I'm sure there will be some new venues as part of this plan. They will want to see to be seen to be trying to do this properly and have the right level of investment. And when I went out into the city earlier, I couldn't find anybody who didn't think it would be good for Birmingham.
I think it'll regenerate parts of the city, and I think that'll bring more people into the city, so that can only be a good thing.
Do you think we can afford it?
I think so. I think that the revenue brought in by people from the outside should surely match the money spent or surpass it.
Well, in Birmingham?
In Birmingham, yeah.
That's good news, isn't it?
Is that what you think will be good for the city?
Yeah, of course, definitely.
I would say that's pretty awesome.
And why? Why would it be so good for this city?
Well, mostly because I think Birmingham's got quite a cosmopolitan population.
It's just get Birmingham on the map, innit? Yeah, a lot of people see what's around in Birmingham as well, so yeah.
And you can see why people might be excited. It's easy to be optimistic now because we don't really have any detail yet. Over the next 6 months, we'll get some of that detail, at least by the end of the financial year, we hope. And then we'll know whether a stadium like this will be redeveloped or whether we'll get some brand new shiny ones in and around Birmingham.
OK, Michael, for now, thank you very much.
Well, for more on this now, we are joined by Councillor Ian Wood, who's the Deputy Leader of Birmingham City Council. Councillor Wood, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
It has been the question of the day, really. In this time when we're talking about saving 250 million over 4 years, can we afford to actually put in a bid?
Well, I think we don't know yet what the cost of the bid will be, but we won't be expecting the council to foot the bill in its entirety. We'll be looking to our partners, the Birmingham Solihull LEP, the Combined Authority, the Midlands Engine to chip in along with the business community. I think the bid itself will raise the profile of the city. Just announcing today our intention has got people up and down this country talking about the city of Birmingham. I'm sure as we go through the bidding process, our profile will be raised and that will pay off in inward investment in the future.
So raising the profile is all very well just by going through the bidding process. But if we don't know how much that bidding process is going to cost, how can the people watching at home make a judgment on whether they think it's a good idea or not? Do you have a ballpark figure, a guess?
Well, the bid, financing the bid is one bit of it. The more important figure, I think, is how much will the games themselves cost were we to be successful.
But that's a gamble, though. That's were it to be successful.
So we're carrying out a feasibility study, and the feasibility study will pose two questions. What additional facilities will we need to provide in order to host the games? And then the games consist of 10 core sports plus some optional sports. So which optional sports will be best for Birmingham to actually put into the games, and what will that all cost? But as your report indicated, we're in a unique position here because we already have world-class sporting facilities in this city, Warwickshire County Cricket Ground, Aston Villa Park, but also the Barclaycard Arena, where we've hosted the World Indoor Athletics in the past and will do so again in 2018. And the NEC, there's huge floor space there where many of the sports in the Commonwealth Games can be hosted, and we have that infrastructure already in place, which will keep the cost of the Games down.
But there are other stadia perhaps that may be required, and also the infrastructure. I mean, there's no point having these hundreds of thousands of people here in the city when actually you can't move around because there's roadworks going on or things aren't completed. What about that cost?
I think that's a good point, and as Steve Hollis was saying, the games can't just be about sport, as exciting as that is. They also have to be about providing infrastructure for the city. So if we do host the games, that will help accelerate providing some of our housing growth, as was the case in Glasgow. It'll also help with our highway infrastructure, in particular a new metro line linking the city centre with the airport, the NEC, and what by 2026 will be the emerging UK Central development out in Solihull. So I think HS2 as well, of course, arrives in 2026, and hosting the games will be a catalyst for ensuring that that line is open in time for the games to be hosted here in Birmingham. So we'll gain all of that infrastructure. As Glasgow pointed out in your report, they achieved £750 million of economic growth as a result of hosting the games. I don't think there's too much risk here. The City Council might have to provide £10 million a year between now and 2026, but the payoff is so big, it's got to be worth it.
On that optimistic note, we'll leave it there. Councillor Ian Wood, thank you for joining us.
Other news.